there, Sandra from Create in Spain. I'm just doing a video with little bits and pieces in it today. Individual bits that don't warrant a video of their very own, so I'm just putting a compilation of things together. This is my CM600 Brother Scan and Cut, but it doesn't come with anywhere to put your tools, so I devised this nifty little spot here to put my pencil in. It's a very easy file. I'll put a link to one down below simply so you can just stash it on your machine. But it's basically an oval with two elongated oval donuts stuck on top of it. I made mine out of thin self-adhesive craft foam, so I literally didn't even have to glue it. I just stacked it up, peeled off the backing and put it on the machine. On the subject of the CM600, I bought mine second hand. I bought it just to see what it could do and whether it would be useful. I do love the scan to cut function. I think that is really great. It has some advantages over my other rather larger, more professional cutter, but it has a lot of disadvantages. And one of the disadvantages is the fact that the mats for this are insert your own expletive rubbish. So I have actually done a video of how to make your own mats should you wish to do so. Works brilliantly, not a problem, and is extremely cheap. I'll put a link to that particular video down below. A bit of an update on my vacuum mold making gizmo. Now, I will post a link to the video that I did before, which shows how this was constructed and basically the whole idea. And today I decided I wanted to make some shaker cards and I wanted some windows for them. So I decided I'd have a bit of fun and do some more of these shaped windows. So all I've done here is I've cut out some standard shapes on my scan and cut. And I've cut them out of the thinner craft foam. It's this sort of stuff. I used a little bit of double-sided sticky tape and stuck 2 layers together. So it didn't take much cutting out. And I thought, well, I could probably get a few on here, so I've managed to get 4 in place. And I've discovered that there's a much easier way of doing the vacuum. What I've done is put the vacuum hose in through the hole and switched it on after just putting my frame over the top. And then all I did was wave the hot air gun over the top from a distance of probably about 8 inches. You don't want to get too close, because if you get too close you'll get holes. In fact, I might have got a little bit too close on that one. But it negates the need to very quickly move it into place. But literally do that a few seconds, take the heat away, and then switch off the vacuum and remove it. And you end up with hopefully 4 of these done in one go, which is really quite nice. One of the things with inserts for shaker cards, if you are going to even buy this sort of bubble shaker type thing, and I made this very easily, but if you're going to buy them, one thing you're going to need to do is to cut out the window for them to appear through. Now, you may think that you just take the measurement of your item and then size it up a little bit, because you do need a little bit of extra space in order for it to pop through. But that's not quite right. What you need to do is an offset. This one has been made using an offset, and as you can see, it fits really nicely. I just chose a 3mm offset for this, okay? Here I've got one where the actual design is exactly the same, but it's just been made as a larger version. And when I put this in, you can see, and I knew this was going to happen, I did it for demonstration purposes, that it doesn't actually follow the shape of your shaker as well. It's just a larger version, it isn't an offset, and there's a difference. This is more rounded, if you like, and this has still got the original shape there. So that's just a little tip if you are going to be using this sort of bubble type shaker insert. I stuck some more of the plastic on the top. I just used hot glue, it was the easiest way of doing it, and stuck another piece of plastic on the top of it once I'd filled it with my shaker bits. If you're going to do that, make sure you put your glue well away from the actual reservoir, because not only will you find it easier to do that, but if you get it too close, you might be able to see traces of glue coming through the other side. When these things are actually stuck together, you can trim off any excess that you might need to. Don't trim it down too close though, because you still need to stick it to the back of your card front. And all I do with mine is I just use a bit of stick. If you want to add a design to the front of your shaker card that overlaps this bubble, it's not going to be easy to do unless you take into consideration the different levels. So on the back of here, for example, I've got double-sided tape at the top, and then I've got craft foam, or double-sided foam tape, I should say, on the lower half, because the lower half is going to go directly on the card front. So then my little birdies can go on here. Have you ever considered putting one on the inside of a card as a surprise element? Because I think that would be quite good. When you have a design like this, which features more than one thing, it would also be quite good to put your design underneath the shaker. So, okay, it looks like I have one little birdie there, but then when you shake this around, you get a bit of a surprise and you can see another one in there. Here we've got the finished card, and I've added a sentiment strip. And the reason I added a sentiment strip, because I wrote my sentiment on there and I messed it up, didn't I? So I put a strip on top to cover it up. Then when I put the strip on top, I managed to get a fingerprint on the far right hand side, so I put a gem on to cover that up. You can cover a multitude of sins with a few gems here or there. Now you may be familiar with using alcohol inks on Yupo paper or acetate and things like that. But here I have a fairly good weight cardstock, and I've got some markers here, and all I'm going to do is draw, for the moment, some wavy lines. Now I have some straightforward rubbing alcohol in here. The one that I use is something like 96% proof. And I'm just going to drop it quite heavily over my image. Now because it's alcohol, it's going to get to work and it's going to start blurring things. Now you can also, if you want to, use a brush of whatever type you like to create different effects. You can drop alcohol on very sparingly if you like. You can do it whatever way you fancy, but you'll just get different effects. One that I did, which is more sort of like sea waves almost, and you can see slightly different effect. This one I brushed, this one I didn't. And you can just have some really good fun with this. I love having cut out sentiments for the fronts of my cards. I think it adds interest, dimension, and it just looks really nice. Don't forget, if you don't have card of the appropriate colour, cut it out in something else. And then if you have alcohol markers, you can just go over it and make it whatever colour you care to. One colour done. Now if you want to add extra dimension on top of that, then you can of course layer them up. Cut out exactly the same sentiment and then just offset very slightly to create a rather nice shadow effect. One thing we tend to forget about when we're doing sentiments and things like that is that we can cut them out of foam. In this case I've used a 1mm foam, but I've used 2mm foams before now, and they will cut just fine on the Scan and Cut or indeed on my silver bullet. But this particular piece of foam did not start off black, because the other thing we tend to forget is that you can actually use an alcohol marker over the top of it to change the colour. If you're anything like me, you have problems actually putting your matting on straight. It isn't so much that I find it difficult to line something up in the first place. That I find easy enough, but for some reason, unless I use a gizmo to line it up, the chances are when I've actually glued it down, I find that it's crooked. So there is a workaround for this as well. Line up your piece of card. In this case, I'm just pretending this is a card front. Take a piece of not too sticky tape. Could be washi tape. It could be just a cheap tape like this one. And place it over the edge, press down, and then just flip your card over, like so. Apply your glue or your tape, whatever you're going to do, and then just lift it up and allow it to drop. Press down and your card front is in the right place. This tip is for those of you who like tape dispensers. I have this 3 and I have another 2 larger ones on my desk. That's because I use an awful lot of tape of different types, from double-sided tape to clear tape to invisible tape to pattern tape. You name it. If it's a tape, I've probably got some. One of the things that I found is that sometimes you buy a reel of tape and it will not fit on your central insert. This is a pain in the neck. You buy a tape because you think, right, that's the right size. They never seem to give you the whole size on the packets, or at least not on the ones that I buy. So you just have to eyeball it and hope for the best. And it's really annoying when they don't fit. So what I suggest you do is go for the ones that have a plastic inside and not the cardboard. I know, not quite as environmentally friendly and all the rest of it, but it means that I can usually get my insert to fit. Generally speaking, if it's a tight fit with a plastic insert, you can't force it in there. And if it's a cardboard one, the same. A cardboard one can't easily be altered. However, the plastic ones can. Quick snip with some wire cutters, and in this particular instance, I've done it on both sides of this particular holder, and you can remove a little bit of plastic. Once that plastic has been removed, or even just cut open, and just take a bit out like that, go in, get a bit more out if I can. But once you've done that, and you might have to do it on 4 different angles, and then I can put it into the dispenser that I want to use my tape in. Okay, this is the last one in this particular video, and it's just a little tip on how to get the most out of your scraps. Anything like me, you end up with scraps of all sorts of different papers and cards. Now, obviously, if it's a pattern card, that's one thing, but if it's the white stuff, then I like to know what it is that I've actually got. So to this end, I have started marking in the corner. When I cut a piece off or cut something out of it, I mark it in one corner to tell me whether it's suitable for alcohol markers, AM, or watercolours, as in WC. That way I can stamp my images and know exactly what I can use to colour them in. So that's it for my little compilation video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Take care now.